We still competed. We still pushed each other. We still led the team.
That's the issue. All right, not a lot of data on Jalen Hurts without A.J. Brown. Only 9% of the, 9% of the plays last year.
He cooked without him, though.
But off-field, he's 5-0 with a passer rating of 115. It's just a little slice. Do you expect Hurts to take a step forward or back without
Well, look, I think Hurts, I think he'll be fine without A.J. I think they have their receiving core is still good. We'll see what the rookie Mekhi Lemon can do, but he's strong. You know, he's in the slot. He can do stuff on the middle of the field. He can run after the catch. So you think he'd be pretty productive. They obviously added a few other guys, Hollywood Brown, Devontae's your number one. I'm kind of expecting the Eagles to take a step back, not so much because of A.J., because I think the receiving core is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're asking Jalen to do a lot of other things. Like he's going to be under center a lot more with Sean Mannion as the OC. They want him to throw over the middle more than he has in the past. So I just think there are a lot of other things they're asking him to do. And if I don't know, I got to be honest, I'm not sure if he's going to take a burst forward or a step back. I just think if it's a step back, it's not because AJ's not there. I think it'll be a relief for him not to have somebody in your ear all the time, complaining, going to the media, sitting on the sideline, being a distraction, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll be fine if he can make the adjustments they want him to make. And if the offensive line is improved a little bit over last year, and if Saquon can have another season. But I think he'll be fine without AJ. I don't think he'll miss him at all.
This is your guy, or is he still your guy?
You know what? It was a harder statistical story last year. I wonder if this is a question about scheme and throwing the ball, or is it a vibes question?
See, I think it's both. Go ahead.
The vibes have to be better. No matter any way you slice it, the vibes were bad last year. Just a lot of furrowed brow, a lot of, that just is not winning football.
So I agree with Brew that I don't know if he'll take a step forward or step back, but I do know that this will be a wildly important year to understand not only what actual level of quarterback Jalen Hurts is, but also how the Eagles actually feel about him. Because I think I was the most ardent that they should have traded him a year ago, A.J. Brown, and when they didn't trade him not a year ago, they're coming off Super Bowl. But they should have traded him at the trade deadline, this moment the season ended, I said he can't be back on the team next year. I think they had to make that move. With that said, I am not certain making the move fixes the locker room, because there is a percentage of my brain that believes, man, A.J. Brown was just the mouthpiece for how a lot of people felt. And it seemed, and I felt that way before some of the reporting came out, and then there seemed to be, the long form ESPN article about how the front office views Jalen, other things, where I do wonder, could vibes go in the wrong direction because either A, instead of one guy saying a lot, it's a lot of guys saying a little kind of passive-aggressive stuff, or if the locker room feels, no one in the locker room feels comfortable kind of releasing that tension valve by saying it, it all just simmers the whole time.
Why do we keep inventing false narratives? Why, all of a sudden, do we want to claim that A.J. Brown was the courageous spokesperson, and everyone else was too afraid to speak up, or they're just uncomfortable voicing their opinions? Suddenly, the entire locker room just doesn't want to talk. Right. Cooper DeJean. Darius Slay, he's notoriously like, nope, I've got nothing to say right now. I don't understand. This locker room is supposedly like, oh no, we're not allowed to say anything because we're afraid of Jalen Hurts, but also we don't like him and don't respect him. A.J. Brown is our hero. He's the voice for the silent. He's the voice for the voiceless. They just can't make up their minds. How about this? I said this in another video. We're going to have so many Philadelphia Eagles videos. Don't get mad at me. It's not my fault that they're making Eagles content 5 times over. Every single show is doing multiple Eagles segments. That's just how this week is going to go. It's going to be a ton of Eagles material. You know what I find really interesting? Because I'm starting to write other stuff down, and I'm going to be coming out with more graphics and statistics. I don't have anything specific right now, but I'm already working on it. I have another one posting tomorrow that will include some of that. So this is like jumping out of a plane and trying to build a parachute. But here's what I find really interesting. They say, oh, they can't get the ball to AJ Brown. And you see at the bottom, Hurts has targeted Brown 486 times since 2022. That's the fourth most in the NFL. And earlier in the segment about the New England Patriots, AJ Brown had the fifth most receiving yards in the NFL over the last 4 seasons with the Eagles. Yet people claim Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball. Jalen Hurts can't maximize AJ Brown. What are they saying? That AJ Brown has to literally just break records? I don't understand at this point what else you actually need. And the fact that AJ Brown is now giving these interviews about how it may not be heaven, but it's close to it, or the fact that he says, me and Jalen haven't really been that close for the last couple of years, that's all so gross. I'm telling you right now, that is all so gross. Are you a man? You know what we always say? Treat these guys like men. These are grown adults. They're men. Stop treating them like kids. Stop all that. They're men. So be a man. Be a man and just stop talking. You're going to have a whole sit-down interview talking about your relationship with Jalen Hurts? You think that's appropriate right now? You think that makes sense? That's what you need to do right now. Really? That makes sense to air all of that out right now? Don't you want to be the bigger person? Don't you understand that Jalen Hurts has been getting way more criticism than you? So don't you want to try to put some of that responsibility on yourself? That's what a man does. He puts it on himself. We always praise leaders for doing that. Oh, I need to be better. I need to do this. I need to do that. Why don't you just say, honestly, there's really nothing going on between me and Jalen. It's just that unfortunately, the relationship ran its course, and I'm just really excited to play in New England. I think it's going to be great for both of us. I think Jalen is going to absolutely ball out. I'm excited to see what he does this year. The Eagles will always have a place in my heart. Winning the Super Bowl, going to multiple Super Bowls, no one can ever take that from us. I'll remember that for my entire life. Me and Jalen will always have that history together. But instead, we get a few generic platitudes. We get a few generic lines like, well, we've accomplished great things, but our relationship this and that. Just stop talking. Just stop talking. And then people will say, how dare you say that? Well, what do we want to do here? What path do we want to walk down? Do we want to treat people as men or not? Do we want to treat people as leaders or not? You've got someone complaining and crying when he's literally 4th in the NFL in pass attempts and 5th in receiving yards since 2022. What more do you want? You want to be 2nd, 3rd, and 1st? It's a joke. It's an embarrassment. It doesn't make any sense. None. Zero. And you'll say, well, a lot of people were concerned about it in 2024. They won the Super Bowl. We'll find out how much they believe in Jalen Hurts. They asked him to pass the ball and make some of the biggest plays on 3rd and 4th down in essentially every single playoff win, every playoff game, and every Super Bowl they've ever been in. So I think they feel pretty good about him. Yeah, they wanted to keep AJ, and yeah, they want to have as much talent as possible. But this conversation is breaking down into absolute nonsense. It's breaking down into absolute nonsense, getting farther and farther from reality. And then we continue to get absolutely absurd comments. AJ Brown barely cracking 1,000 yards a season, 19th in receptions and yards, and only 7 touchdowns. He wasn't topping anything, lol. I gave my whole response, and he says, bring up the last 4 seasons. I bring up last season, where he was 19th in receptions and 19th in yards. Nice try to add if he played X amount of games. A lot of ifs. You can do that with every receiver ahead of him who missed games also, so that doesn't mean anything. Chris Olave played 1 more game than AJ and has 20 plus more catches. You're saying if him and Olave played the same number of games, he would make up that difference in catches? No. laughable. It's not a fraction off. Seriously, where are you getting your stats from? This guy is also really confused about how statistical analysis works. It's actually really funny. He was the one I did a whole statistical breakdown for, actually gave a real analysis of pass attempts and completion percentage. And literally proved him wrong statistically. It's just basic math. I had the scatter plot, the trend line, and all that. And he said, no, it's not right. It's called basic statistics. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. But this is where people just want to focus on individual variables when they seem to fit their argument. That's not how this works. You want to talk about cherry-picking statistics? That's not how it works. Not to mention, you want to put all of this on Jalen Hurts' shoulders. And we're going to debunk that right now, really, really slowly, and really, really simply. So buckle up, because I've got my calculator and everything else here. First off, mind you, this is just receiving yards, right? Barely cracking 1,000 yards. And yes, he only played 15 games. If we look at the vast majority of other receivers, especially the main ones, the key ones, the ones we actually care about, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 17 games, Puka Nacua, 16, George Pickens, 17, Jamar Chase, 16, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 17, Zay Flowers, 17, Chris Olave, 16. And here's what's interesting, because Olave is who he brought up. Olave had 100 receptions for 1,163 yards on 151 targets. So he had an extra 30 targets but only 100 more yards. He had 22 more catches, yet only a little over 100 more yards. Is that really the example we want to use right now? I don't know. Yes, if A.J. Brown played a full season, he would have been higher. He would have had 1,136 yards, which would have placed him 8th. Above Jameson Williams, who played 17 games. Again, Justin Jefferson played 17 games. Yes, you can make it perfectly equal over a 17-game season. We can absolutely equalize that. But if you want to go that deep into statistical analysis, then let's start factoring in other things like YAC. How about contested target and contested catch percentage? By the way, A.J. Brown was at 48.6%. Let's look at all the relevant wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, 78.6%, Courtland Sutton, 53.1%, Nico Collins, 56.7%, Jameson Williams, 62.5%, Zay Flowers, 53.8%, Jamar Chase, 54.5%, George Pickens, 56.4%, Puka Nacua, 71.1%, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 57.7%. So some of those yards, some of those touchdowns, sometimes it is up to the receiver to get it done, not just the quarterback. But no, the conversation you want to have is, A.J. Brown only had 1,000 yards and only 7 touchdowns, therefore it's all Jalen Hurts' fault. Really? Because Puka Nacua had 27 contested catches on 38 targets. Meanwhile, A.J. Brown only had 17 contested catches on 35 targets. Those 10 contested catches alone, the difference, if he just had the same contested catch percentage, that alone, based just on his yards per reception, would have given A.J. Brown an additional 120 yards. That's not Jalen Hurts' fault. A contested target is, hey, it's contested. Are you getting the job done? Are you able to make the catch? Yes or no? We put that on the receiver. And he didn't. So that alone would have given him even more yards, put him even higher. So what do we not grasp about some of this? This is what actual statistical analysis is. It's not just looking at one thing and organizing it this way and saying, look, this is what it is. Also, how do you want to make sense that Keenan Allen played 17 games, had 770 yards, only 4 touchdowns? Meanwhile, Devontae Adams played 14 games, had only 789 yards, but 14 touchdowns. Is it because scheme plays a factor? Is it because it's a little more complicated than just the quarterback and who's throwing you the ball? Is it coaching? Is it scheme? Is there some sort of intention? Weird. Why don't we highlight that Dallas Goedert led the NFL in touchdowns for tight ends with 11? Why do we never talk about that? If that was A.J. Brown, nobody would be saying anything. Is it because of the scheme? Is it because that was the one thing Kevin Patullo could actually do? Something I called out weeks and weeks prior. I said clearly he's comfortable scheming and calling plays for tight ends. And lo and behold, Goddard was balling. And again, Goddard only had 591 yards and 11 touchdowns. Trey McBride had 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns. Again, is it scheme? I wasn't sure. This stuff is kind of confusing to me. You do realize that Goddard got 11 touchdowns, so he was tied for the second most touchdown receptions in the NFL? But we don't want to count that because he's a tight end, but we'll count it when it's Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski for Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. That's so weird, right? Now, the math on Saquon Barkley's rushing and A.J. Brown's receptions. Brown had 78 receptions. He played 15 games. Everyone around him played 16 or 17. So tell me where the vast majority of those are? Yeah, they all have more. Even the ones with 16 games. So yes, if he played a full 17-game season, he would have had 88.4 receptions, which would be under Wan'Dale Robinson's 92, but he would have been above Zay Flowers at 86. Just basic math. That's how you get there with the numbers, buddy. He would have had more receptions than Zay Flowers, 17 games, Stephon Diggs, 17, Justin Jefferson, 17, Keenan Allen, 17, Michael Pittman Jr., 17. He would have been right under George Pickens by a few. And here's the thing, some of the games that A.J. Brown missed, like the one against the Washington Commanders, they would have feasted in. He got robbed of some of those feast games that all these other guys got to benefit from. Puka, Ja'Marr Chase, Jackson, they were feasting, having games with a ton of targets, receptions, and touchdowns. A.J. Brown wasn't in a position to take advantage of that the way all those other guys were. So these aren't ifs and buts. This is called statistical analysis. This is called context. If you think we should go by nothing but bottom-line stats and nothing else, no context, I'm so happy you want us to do that. Zero context, nothing else. Jalen Hurts' 2024 postseason, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, led NFL quarterbacks, was SE. Condominium in passing yards with 726, completion percentage of 71.4, yards per attempt of 8.0, passer rating of 108.6. We're not adding any other context, nothing about coaching, players, offensive line, running game. We're not adding any other context whatsoever, because apparently we don't want to do that for A.J. Brown at all. No other context, just strict numbers. Numbers don't lie. Nothing but numbers. Jalen Hurts led the NFL postseason with 194 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. No one else even had 3 touchdowns. No one else even had 150 yards. No one else had 140 rushing yards. He had 194. Haters will say it's all the tush-push, but last time I checked, they didn't run the tush-push 194 times. Also, Josh Allen and the Bills famously do the tush-push. He only had 2 touchdowns and 105 yards, and his yards per attempt were 3.6. Jalen Hurts were 5.7. Kind of weird, right? But those are the numbers, and now we'll want to add context. No, you're misleading. What about this? What about that? Oh, okay, I get it now. That same guy will discount any of these other stats. In 2024, Jalen Hurts was 5th in passer rating at 103.7, elite touchdown to interception ratio at 18-5, completion percentage 8th in the NFL. And then they say, look, he only threw for 2,900 yards. Well, he played 14 games because he got knocked out of the 15th. What happens if we do the math there? What about 2025, where he had 25 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, 9th in the NFL in touchdowns? But again, no other context. We're not allowed to add any. None. And here's what's so funny, A.J. Brown had 7 touchdowns. If he just got 1 more touchdown, he immediately jumps to being 9th. That's it. Ja'Marr Chase had 8 touchdowns, and yet T. Higgins had 11 touchdowns. No one is saying, man, Ja'Marr Chase isn't getting the ball enough. He had 1 more touchdown than A.J. Brown. And again, when we bring in tight ends, we see Dallas Goedert 2nd in the NFL, same as T. Higgins. Both played 15 games. Both had 60 receptions, 60-59. Both had 11 touchdowns. Do you see how they want to manipulate and force the conversation on their terms, then claim that people like me are doing it wrong? No, this is just basic math. This is how you add context and analyze statistical data. Otherwise, just use bottom line numbers. And if you want to just use bottom line numbers, A.J. Brown is targeted 4th most in the NFL and 5th in receiving yards. Same as my graphic from the other day. Let's just use straight up numbers. Better than Tyreek Hill, more yards than Tyreek Hill. Hill beats him in touchdowns, but Brown has more total targets, more yards per season, more targets per season, more yards per game, a higher season high, more 1,400 plus yard seasons, and multiple Super Bowl touchdowns. But no, we don't want to use those. So again, you want to pick and choose when we can just use the numbers and add nothing else. It's funny how that works. What's even funnier is that you think you know when it's appropriate and when it's not. Have you worked with data before? Have you worked with numbers? Have you worked in research labs? Do you actually understand how to manipulate data, look at it, and analyze it? Is that something you feel well equipped to do? Because I've yet to read a comment from you doing it. In fact, you argued against me about pass attempts and completion percentage, and I completely proved you wrong. You were so wrong it was comically, hilariously, absurdly wrong. You couldn't have been more wrong. The correlation was 0.0001%, and you tried to argue it was a direct linear comparison. You couldn't get any farther from being correct. Statistically, you couldn't be any more incorrect. Yet you're trying to argue against me. No, no, no. The burden of proof is on you. Show me your work. Show me why you want to add context in only specific circumstances but not others. I'd love to know why we don't want to factor in other things like the offensive line. When Jalen Hurts wins in 2024, we want to talk about the offensive line and weapons. When Matthew Stafford wins, we don't want to talk about the offensive line or weapons. When Patrick Mahomes comes up short, comically, hilariously short, we say, well, the offensive line and weapons. But when he wins, it's nothing to do with that. Do you hear yourselves? You do realize that in 2024, Matthew Stafford threw for 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, right? He had Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. A great running game and great coaching. He threw for 20 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts is getting ripped for throwing 25 touchdowns and fewer interceptions. We're very clear on that. Stafford had a passer rating of 93.7, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,700 yards, didn't break 4,000, and 65.8% completion. Yet Jalen Hurts has a 98.5 passer rating, 25 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. But that's not okay for Jalen. That's not okay. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, and A.J. Brown? How do you think it's going to work? How do you feel about these conversations and how they've been unfolding? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or disagree, either way, let's get into some discussions, get into some debates, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something we all genuinely feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.